Hey, Megamaniacs, it's Mr. MegaManFan, and the pickings are getting a little slim at half-price books these days, but in the retro hunting adventures, we're going to try to make the best of it anyway, so stay tuned.
Yo, this is Mega Ran, and you need to rock and or roll on over to Mr. Mega Man Fan's YouTube channel, because it's all that rush to make it happen. Peace!
As you can see, we're starting with The Sims 2 this week, which has been released on damn near everything that you can think of, and I do mean everything. Windows PCs? Yep. Mac OS? You got it. Game Boy Advance, GameCube, Nintendo DS? Of course. PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PSP, as this version here would indicate, but my box had something funky on the end spine. I managed to scratch it off there. Don't know what that was. Probably just not a well cared for game, or at least not the outside of it was well cared for, but inside, it's a different story. It is complete on the inside, instruction manual and UMD, so highly acceptable in this condition for only $5, when according to price charting, the average is $10.49 loose and $12 complete as of this video. The PSP version is a little different from some of the others that are available, and I'll use the ever-helpful Wikipedia to explain that. The character begins driving through the Strangetown desert, presumably on the road to nowhere, when suddenly the plumb bob flies toward the player, causing them to lose control and damage their car. The player finds a gas station, takes their car to the garage, and at that point the player takes control, where you're introduced to a mechanic named Oscar, who, after a brief tutorial teaching the player how to talk to other Sims, informs the player their car will take a short while to fix. The player is then free to roam around the gas station, and after being introduced to more NPCs, including Bella Goth, who claims to be abducted by aliens, completing tasks and being taught the basic objective of the game, which is secret hunting for the store clerk. The player then exits, only to find the garage around the back has completely disappeared, along with Oscar and their car, with only the foundation of the garage remaining. The only thing left from the disappearance is a cell phone, which the player answers, and a man named Dr. Dominic Nulo offers the player a job, requiring him or her to get a ride into town and find a place to stay. So, as you can see, there is a linear plot structure, so if you're used to The Sims being a free-form game where you can just create a life and move into a home and marry somebody and decorate whatever you want and live a life in sim form, this game is not necessarily that. And unfortunately for my testing of the game here on emulation, I didn't have a controller that had enough buttons to do everything I wanted to. I tried to map the analog stick to some of the buttons and the D-pad to the other buttons, but they conflicted with each other, and I was left in a cycle where I could only walk up and down on the very right edge of Oscar's garage. I realized I was getting nowhere fast this way, so I'll have to play it offline on my actual PSP and give you additional thoughts as to whether or not I think it's a fun game. But for $5, it was kind of a low-risk investment anyway. Like I said, it goes for twice that according to price charting, so I'm not going to moan about the fact that I can't play it in emulation with the controller I have. It's worth investing in a dual analog stick controller for this kind of thing anyway. So we'll just move on to the next game. That game would be Wizards of Waverly Place, which is just barely a bargain at $3 complete, because price charting has it as $3.50 complete, so theoretically I only saved 50 cents, but I also got a 10% discount thanks to my wife, so it actually ended up being $2.70, and when I say complete, boy howdy is this one complete. There is a lot of stuff inside this one. I wouldn't normally think somebody would save this much of it, but maybe it was played so little that they hardly ever took any of this out. We've got the Wi-Fi manual. We've got the Nintendo DS owner's guide and warning information on proper usage. We've also got a Wizards of Waverly Place poster, which I don't think I'll ever get around to unfolding. It's just not something I need to display, so it'll go back in the case when we're through here. The actual instruction manual for the game, and even an advertisement for other games, all in this one case. They crammed a lot of things into that little hinge where normally just a couple of instruction manuals go. So kind of felt like I was coming out ahead at $3 just based on the sheer amount of stuff that they crammed inside of this one. Holy crap. I've never watched this show before, but I gather from watching this intro that somehow a typewriter has been modified to work like a laptop computer, and that our featured wizard here is using it to shop for something that is also listed as being for only 18 and up. And apparently because Magic, when you shop online with the typewriter computer, it gets delivered instantly to your home. And also, like Magic, she just somehow immediately has it on her wrist. I didn't even see her take it out of the box, but so it goes. And I had a choice of whether to display both the top and the bottom screen in this video or crop it. And I chose to crop it to the bottom screen for two reasons. One, that's the area that you actually interact with. You're clicking the mouse like you would click the stylus on the DS. And secondly, the top half of the screen is pretty useless. It's just giving you advice like, do this and do that. And the bottom screen is doing the same thing anyway, so the top screen is not really adding much for this particular game. It just gives you a little bit of dialogue here and there, says chapter 1, you're in this chapter of the game, whatever. So I'm going to go to the Wizards of Waverly Place page just to figure out who these characters are. They're Alex, Justin, and Max Russo, 3 teenage wizards in training living in an apartment on Waverly Place in Greenwich Village, Manhattan. Their father, Jerry Russo, is a former wizard who provides his children with daily lessons in their secret lair on how to use magic responsibly. Is that enough of a plot for a TV show or a video game? Well, it has to be, because according to this page, it ran from October 12th, 2007 to January 6th, 2012, so that's a pretty significant run. 106 episodes in total. And I'm guessing it was also a pretty well-selling game, given that it only goes for $3, which means there must be a lot of copies of Wizards of Waverly Place for Nintendo DS floating around out there. There was another controller issue here, but not with the controller plugged into my USB port, because really it's completely unnecessary for this particular game. I'm using the touchpad as the actual DS touchpad and a mouse to click on it like the stylus clicking on the screen. So that shouldn't have been problematic, but when Jerry is trying to teach me how to do these magic tricks, getting the stylus on the emulator to work like the actual stylus on the DS turned out to be an incredible pain. I eventually got it to the point where I was able to do this first magic spell, which was to click on an item and then wave the wand up to levitate it, which involves dragging the stylus up the screen. It's not completely obvious how you do that just from watching the demo of it, but you can sort of get there eventually. Then he tells you that you've got to practice not just making the cup levitate in the air, but you've actually got to move it around. So he has you making circles with your magic wand. And this is looking pretty awkward, as you can see. So I switched from one form of touchpad to another midway through the video. Like, okay, I need something where I can actually make a really tight circle with my finger. But no matter how many times I drew a circle in the air, it just absolutely refused to do this magic trick. I don't know why, because I could do the levitate just fine. I I mean, it was not easy to get it to work, but I got it to work. And I swear I'm drawing some fairly tight circles here, but it's just not happening. So I'll be honest with you, Megamaniacs, I got tired of it and decided to move on to something else. Space Invaders vinyl decals, officially authorized by Taito. And I think this may have actually been my best purchase of the entire trip to Half Price Books. It didn't take me very long to get these out of the package and take a look at them, and I was quite excited to see there were 4 sheets inside. We start with some classic Space Invaders in gigantic and small sizes, along with some shield bases and a Space Invaders arcade cab, as well as one of the aliens that you can see on the side art and the marquee. Then you have even more of those same alien and a giant Space Invaders logo that also has Japanese underneath it, and some UFOs. This is a very nice set. We're 2 for 2 so far. Then we've got a close-up of the front of the arcade cab, along with some individual alien invaders, and a high score table. So 3 for 3 on these vinyl decals. I'm already picturing all the ways and places that I can apply them to. My Commodore 1702 monitor, my MacBook that I do all my emulation for these videos on, 4 sheets of vinyl decals, 60 pieces in all, $3 for the set. Best purchase of the day. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and as always, thank you for watching.